Welcome to Mondays with Mondainé, where we explore topics that concern the community and especially those that are marginalized. Tonight, this is going to be a special episode because it's a compilation. Yeah! It's going to be a mixture of all the guests that we've ever had. Not all of them, just a few, okay? Because it's our anniversary. 1 year ago, we started this. And I tell you what, it wasn't a platform that I was really excited about. I didn't know anything about it. So the first few shows are actually horrible. They get better as they go on. But I'm in for new things. Well, not all new things, but some new things. And I've just been excited about being able to do this show, and I've been excited to do it with you. The team of people that I work with, by the way, are just fantastic. And without them, I wouldn't be able to do this. Tonight, we're going to start with remembering Naeem Hassan, who was a community member of Portland, who has been born and raised here his whole life, a gold medal winner, and also a wonderful a photographer. He's an entrepreneur, and he's been on our show like 3 times, and he's one of those people that we can't get enough of. So we're going to have a conversation with him right now, and I hope you enjoy it.
What I do know that is consistent across that board, there's a passion for the work. And it's different when you like it versus when you love the work.
Yeah.
Because there's a different type of a pain reserved when you approach your work from this place called love versus like. Because the discomfort of this process can be overwhelming. If you just like it, the pain can be greater than your ability to like.
So you gotta love it.
And you might decide that I'm going to go get me a job.
Yeah.
But these folks, I know, they love their process.
You got to love it.
And the discomfort, it's uncomfortable, but what else am I going to do?
Yeah.
That's the mindset. It's like you're all in all the time.
Yeah.
That changes the game.
Yeah.
And when I think about the people that you mentioned, that was at the root of, because we don't know all the struggles they were dealing with day to day when nobody knew their names, and they had these amazing songs and this creative ability, and people like, who are you and why would I even care? But they continued to show up and produce and find some ways to create their work and art and put it out into the world. And what I've come to know is there are people along those pathways. All you need is one person to say, yeah, let me give you a shot.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking from personal experience, right, in that regard.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of no's. But I loved my process when I was training and competing. I loved the photography process, and having the business background helps me understand what is involved in that journey, and particularly my Olympic experience, which is the most difficult thing I've ever done. Overlay that discomfort in this process. And it's about, okay, you have to develop this. We hear the term resilience, but entrepreneurship doesn't happen without it.
So I've heard you say 2 important things. Well, you said a lot of important things, but one of the things that jumped out at me is you say, you got to love it. You got to be in love with this. And you got to learn how to hear no. Yeah. And then one of the things I want to add is that you don't have to be Beyonce. You don't have to be Rihanna, pardon me, and you don't have to be Puff Daddy or any of those people. You don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to be a billionaire. You got to be able to make it and sustain. Hey, man, that was a interesting conversation. And Naeem, I could just watch him all day long. He's one of the voices of reason that I think bring a lot to the table, and we could just listen to him and learn all day long. The next person I'm going to talk to is Lynn Peterson. Lynn Peterson is the president of Metro, and she's also running for congresswoman for the 5th District here in Portland, Oregon. I tell you what, she's a jewel, a professional. She's been the transportation secretary for the United States of America. So I'm telling you something, we've got a jewel in Lynn Peterson. Listen to what she has to say about transportation and community in general, and what she's going to bring to the station when she wins as Congresswoman.
there is a difference between, and they make it very well known, there's a difference between consultation with a big C, because they are a government.
Yeah.
Right? They are a separate government entity, and they want consultation with a big C, which means you go to them.
Right.
And I've always had that in my being, that I don't want to be in an office. I don't want you to come to me. I really don't. I want to go and see where you work, live, and play, what's important to you, what you value, and how you see those barriers before you. Mm-hmm. If I ask a tribe to come into Olympia, that was consultation with a small c.
Yeah.
In other words, you're not getting me in my place, and my place is everything to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done elected positions and appointed positions, consulting, the whole range of looking at how to build community from every angle. And I think that's the happy place for my brain, is being able to see the same issue from everybody's perspective, so that you can find the line through that everybody agrees, yeah, I'm getting something out of that. I'm not getting everything I want out of that.
Yeah.
But I can see progress being made.
Yeah.
And that's the other part, is you have to have leadership that says, this isn't my solution. Mm-hmm. And that's like the single most important thing that I picked up as a young elected official from my mentor, who was the mayor of Lake Oswego. She said, never get a solution in your head. Be more concerned about the outcomes. And advocate for those outcomes, because if you can find a way through to get a set of solutions that everybody agrees to, you're going to get your outcomes. Wow. But if you sit there as the leader and like, I want the road to be 4 lanes with a shoulder, like you've lost everybody.
Right.
Right? There's no ownership, and you haven't actually heard what the problem is.
You have to listen to the sounds of the sidewalk.
Yes.
Wow. You know what?
That's my next book right there.
Listen to the sounds of the sidewalk. Well, yeah, you've got to.
Yeah.
Because they speak, everything talks. Mm-hmm. But you've got to be able to listen.
Mm-hmm. They had to start all over again. Mm-hmm. And they had to start from a negative place, which is what I talk about in the book. If you don't start these conversations right, then you lose trust, and you're starting from a huge deficit, and nobody's benefiting. Everybody's life is put on hold. No investment is being made. My criteria for helping get the federal grants, for helping set up that system, is going to be, have you done these things?
Yeah.
I'm not going to help a community if you have passed over or didn't include. You show me that you've done the work and that this actually solves the problems, and then I'm going to be 100% working on that grant for you.
Wow.
Right? But it has to be that clear.
Yeah.
And that's how clear it will be. We need more stories.
Tell us about that.
We need more access to stories so that we can share the barriers that people have seen, felt, right, throughout their lives, in order to be able to understand how to bring it down.
Wow.
And this is not, it was not a pre-planned thought, but it was a good question. I feel like we need more people in different places storytelling.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of courage from a lot of people to be able to do that. We just had a resolution today about the Indian boarding schools and the trauma that has created, and it is still uncovering, right, of what it is really hard for our staff to keep telling those stories.
Yeah.
We need more people telling their stories, so it's not just on 1 or 2 people to continually rehash that trauma, but we need more people being able to feel safe to tell those stories. So I guess I would just say I'm committed to figuring out continuous learning and figuring out how to continually create more and more safe spaces so that we can learn from each other.
Thank you, Lynn. And my God, she's a powerhouse, isn't she? I tell you what, I'm looking forward to her run in 2024. well, 2024, we're here. And it's an upward climb, but I think she's got a pretty good chance. I want you to get out there and vote for her. Joanne Hardesty, one of my favorite people in the world, and she's my big sister. She's an ex-city commissioner, or a previous city commissioner, not ex, and a community activist from way back. She did this job free, as a community advocate and a clarion crier. She was a voice in the community way before she got paid for it. And I tell you what, knowing her is knowing power. This is a little woman with a lot to say. She's smart. She's a black mama. Have you ever seen, you know what black mothers are like. They're insistent, and they ask questions, and they want to know why, and they need to know now, or, you're in trouble. Let's listen to Joanne and hear what she has to say. And, boy, we had a good time interviewing her. Where do we start first to make our nation better? What are your thoughts?
Well, let me just say what we've witnessed over the last few years has really been just insanity. Whether it's removing mailboxes so that black neighborhoods don't have access to mail-in ballots, whether it's the get tough on crime, we got to just arrest people. We're going to arrest our way out of homelessness. I think the reality is that we have to take a pause. I think the craziness that was created by having 45 as president, and that was Trump. I say 45 because I hate to have that T word come out of my mouth.
We don't want to count to 47, do we?
No, we don't want 47.
That would be 48.
Time two, right? Yeah. But the point is that, for the first time in my lifetime, and being a child of the civil rights movement, we know what hate looks like. We know when people were trying to keep black kids from going to public education, trying to keep black parents from buying houses and decent. We lived through that era, right? If you'd have told me that we would be going back to banning books, that we would be prohibiting teaching slavery because white kids may be uncomfortable, wow. I mean, that's just craziness. You can't call that anything but craziness. And honestly, I do believe that is directly related to the increase of people of color in America that are coming to voting age. Yeah. The reality is white male dominance in our political arena, in our life, it's dying off, and literally and figuratively, right? The business interests are spending so much money saying, oh, it's broken, and the only solution is more police. The only solution is more oppression of people who are already oppressed. We, as you know, we actually abandoned people during COVID on the street, right? Yeah. And now we're mad because they have the audacity to live on the street. Well, if we wanted to, we could actually put them into buildings because we have hundreds, thousands of vacant buildings all over the city. And I will tell you the difference between, you said Los Angeles and Seattle and other cities, they didn't abandon homeless people on the street when COVID happened. Remember, it took actually me making the mayor open 3 outdoor camps to be the first people to expand beds for homeless individuals, right? And because we abandon them on the street, what do people do? They self-medicate on the street, and you got a cheap synthetic drug that actually just makes people they can't move. They're just stuck on the street in a daze, frozen, right? We're last in the country when it comes to mental health treatment, right? But we're mad that we got people who need mental health treatment on the street talking to themselves.
Yes. I stood up on the flagpole, and I'm scared of heights.
Right.
And I told the governor, I said, after this 2020 census, it's going to be massacre to black people. You thought 2010 was bad. 2020, although they say it wasn't as bad as 2010, it was worse.
It was worse.
When you look at the numbers, that's where we are. Where do we see the need for the most immediate change?
Well, I think what we must do is we must go back to some of those basic community organizing methods that we used on the civil rights movement, right? Yeah. That means having those community education forums in church basements. That means actually going to community-based groups and building coalitions, right? As someone who used to be in elected office, I can tell you, politicians don't do things because it's a good idea.
Yeah.
They do it because the community pushes them and demands that they do it. And now is the time to start really helping to educate people about all the opportunity that is presented in in the 2024 election cycle, right?
Yeah.
I want people to go into it optimistic about what's possible. Because think about having 3 people on the city council that represents your community as compared to 5 who are supposed to represent everybody and only represent downtown. And remember, Black lives are used to either justify cruelty or kindness.
Yes.
Right? And it has been that way through the history of this country.
Oh, of course.
When you go back to Oregon and the first law we passed was an exclusion law that prevented Black people from living here.
Yes.
Right? And so Oregon has this from its birth. It was birthed on a white supremacy model of what governance should look like, right?
Yeah.
And it took people that would stand against the grain like me that would say, well, I'm sorry, I want to know, are Black people benefiting from this local government? And if so, in what way, right? When you say, oh, we have all these equity programs, well, let's see, are they working? And I found out at the city of Portland, it's almost impossible to be a Black person and get a contract from the city of Portland. What's frustrating to me, you talk about frustration, is when people that look like you and I and know the inequities that exist in our institutions will go off and then pimp themselves to the downtown business interests so they can get elected to a higher office.
Well, we used to call, there was a word for that.
Yes, there was. We had a few of them.
Well, one of the greater words that come to mind is a house Negro.
Yes, that's exactly what they used to be called.
And then
they would go and tell the massa what the slaves were planning. If they was planning an uprising, it's like, yeah, you
but
had
when
to have
we
one of
start
those.
talking like that, we get in trouble. Dr. Martin Luther King made an astonishing revelation. He said that civil rights were going to be no longer really the big draw of the day in our society right now. What it was going to be about is going to be about human rights. So as we look at the picture going forward, sitting on the bottom is still the African American, but it's encompassing of the entire community that have the upper hand to stir. And when you stir from the bottom, guess what? Everybody rises.
Right. I want people to leave, even with all the horribly bad stuff that's happening, I want them to know that there's a 20-something, 30-something, even some 40-somethings aren't too old yet, that are really thinking intentionally about building that beloved community.
Yeah.
And we can help them, and they won't be perfect, right? But I think we have to take this multi-generational approach to understanding all of us have deep knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And wherever we got it from, our lived experience is valuable in building that beloved community.
Wow, what a wonderful conversation with Joanne. Steve Furnish, an ambitious advocate for veterans. He's got a program that's out of this world that is aimed at trying to do or be a community advocate for veterans all in one place, a one-stop shop of medical, mental, physical, I mean, you name it, social, honing the skills and making the moves that make veterans feel more comfortable and like we appreciate them in these United States of America for their service. Let's hear what Steve brings to the table and talk about his dreams for veterans. And boy, I think that we're going to make it. I think we're going to do it, and we're going to do it through people like Steve and his hard advocacy. Let's listen to him. We know that Veterans 3 is dedicated to creating communities that provide homes and aid for homeless veterans. Could you expand on how your unique approach focuses on tiny gated homes in communities and it aids in their transition out of homelessness?
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that the homelessness is not just a thing, it's a way of life. And you kind of get into this frame of mind, and you can't just turn a switch and change it just because you're around inside four walls. You've got to really help somebody with their social health and their physical health, their mental health, their emotional health, their all those areas, because it's a combination of all those things. And it's a matter of seeing things, the small things that prevent somebody from being transitioning out of homelessness. Our project is to not only put them in homes, but to have like a doctor's office on site where doctors can come in and volunteer so many hours a month to come in and take care of our residents.
Emulating the old communities where there used to be hands-on people in the community. Go and get Doc Sullivan.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And then we want to have a veterinary clinic because veterans, one thing that helps them the most is having a pet, a companion. And that helps them with their PTSD, their anxiety, their depression, all those things. And I found that a lot of your communities, homeless communities that they're putting together, if you have a pet, you can't be there, or you have to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And that's like getting rid of your child or your best friend. There's a lot of things that happen in the homeless communities, and you end up having people in your life that you don't really want in your life anymore because they would make it hard for you to be to get out of that transition, or to transition out of homelessness. So you want those influences that weren't as great. It gives us a chance to make sure that we're not allowing just anybody into the community. Yeah, and we don't care if they're LGBT, we don't care if they're trans, we don't care if they're white or black or Asian. We don't care about any of that because none of that matters.
They served our country.
They served our country.
None of that.
We have so many veterans out there right now that are medal recipients, Medal of Honor recipients, Blue Cross recipients, that are sitting homeless and just rotting away. We lose 21 of our veterans every single day from suicide throughout this country. And it's a sad thing that that's happening. So I want to see this stop.
I've said many times over that some of our greatest power is on the sidewalk in those tents.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. It's always a pleasure being with him. And I tell you, I'm looking forward to the good work that he's doing. Darrell Kinsey Bay, an advocate for justice and peace, as he says, and he's running for the city mayor's position. I want us to listen to Darrell Kinsey Bay, and let's talk about what he's going to bring to the table and what his hopes are for the community. Let's delve real quickly into your healing justice and your 4 core values. What does that look like, healing justice? I like that.
What I envision is recognizing that the first value that was expressed is the human rights. Human rights is something that we fail to embrace, recognizing that everybody that's a human deserves the opportunity to be recognized as such, regardless of how they identify, regardless of where they're from, regardless of what language that they speak, regardless of what their economic status is, and so on and so forth. I really want that to be something that we take another look at and really examine it. And furthermore, when it comes to economic optimism, infusing it with social equity, we are wanting to no longer behoove people by using buzzwords like diversity, equity, and inclusion, and having no substance, having no follow through, trying to inspire people with words only to manipulate them emotionally. However, when it comes to the family being able to work together, not apart, working with even maybe blended families, which I have to do myself, all those dynamics need support when it comes to mental health, when it comes to financial intelligence, when it comes to learning how to grow their own food. We're dealing with sustainability. And also, the most important thing of them all is civic engagement and understanding what that actually is. Because being a citizen is meshed with civics, which is the responsibilities and duties of citizenship. What I've recognized, being a student myself, I've recognized that when you come to school hungry, you have a higher chance of not being able to focus in class, which then spills over to the teacher having an issue with that student. And if there's multiple students that have these issues in regards to not being able to eat proper food, being malnourished, or single parent household, with all due respect to those that work really diligently to maintain a household and keep the children on point with their grades and et cetera, it is very challenging. You know, you have individuals like Naya. You have individuals or organizations like REAP Incorporated, the organization I work for. You have SEI. You have Black Parent Initiative. You have SUN, Schools Uniting Neighborhoods, and the Latino Network, Latino Student Union, Black Student Union. All these different organizations should be encouraged to work together.
Okay.
I would like to call it silo eradication. That is what Portland deserves, not just needs. They deserve this. This is what we deserve. And if we embrace what it is that we're owed and what we deserve, we can be able to manifest joy in our lives and in our city. This is common sense politics. You know, I don't have all the answers, but I do have a passion to be able to uplift people and to encourage them to be better than they were yesterday. I don't have any intentions on being a stereotypical politician in every aspect of that phrase.
And who are you?
I am a young man, emphasis on young, with no discrimination to anyone. I'm a young man that is married and faithful to my wife, my faith, and my family, and my country. Because I'm an American citizen, and although we have negative experiences and a lot of trauma dealing with the red, white, and blue, I want to change the perspective.
Last but certainly not least, we're going to have a conversation with our district attorney, Mike Schmidt. He's been on the job for 4 years now, and I think that he's the guy that's going to turn the key. You know, we want answers right now in a system that's been broken for years, but it's going to take somebody with tenacity, stick-to-itism, there's another word tonight, and it's going to take somebody with the heart and drive to make the difference. I think that Mike can do that. He's got a lot to say tonight. Let's listen to what he's got to say.
About me, you know, I grew up in upstate New York, in a small little rural community, went to college. My first job out of college, I actually went to the city of New Orleans and became a high school teacher. And that was really my first, I didn't know this at the time, but that was my first taste of understanding the criminal justice system. And some of the things that you've just mentioned, especially as it pertains to the black community. All my students were black. And here I am from a small town in upstate New York, very homogeneous, white, small town. So it was my first real taste. I know what it was like for me growing up. You know, we used to, this little tiny town, one little sheriff, he'd be running around and we'd run for him from fun, right? Like if we're at the park too late and he comes out with spotlight us, we go running, and it was almost like a game. Fast forward to when I'm teaching in New Orleans and my students' interactions with the criminal system was not a game. Much different experience for them growing up. I remember one time we had a shooting that happened right near the campus, so we were all locked down. And I asked my kids, I said, you know, how many of you here in this classroom know somebody who's been shot? And this is in New Orleans. Every single hand goes up. If you would have asked me that when I was in 9th grade social studies, I don't know that any hands would have gone up in my classroom. And these young people, I was there to teach them about the Wright brothers and Henry Ford and assembly lines and history and all that. And they're just trying to get through their day experiencing violence, you know, being victims of crime. Some of them being the caretakers for their young siblings because the parents are out of the home because their parents have been in the criminal system.
Right.
You know, some of them themselves. I had a student that was arrested, 14 years old, held in solitary confinement all weekend. because supposedly he had marijuana on him. Well, that was later proved that he didn't have marijuana on him. The police officers planted it on him and kept my 14-year-old student in a jail cell for the entire weekend.
Wow.
I'm very proud of our Justice Integrity Unit. Our Justice Integrity Unit recognizes that the system has been getting things wrong for a long period of time. And we make mistakes. But if we're not actively looking backwards to see where we make mistakes, then we're just going to keep losing the trust of the community. We've uncovered, in my first 3 years, over a dozen of wrongful convictions. That people, we actually had a man who was serving time in prison and he was wrongfully convicted. Not only did we uncover that in Multnomah County, we've uncovered statewide dozens of wrongful convictions. And so now we're starting to fix those things, because how is the community supposed to trust us if we're convicting people wrongfully? So I'm very proud of the work that the Justice Integrity Unit is doing, but it's not changing how many people are in prison overnight, right? We're talking about dozens of people when we have tens of thousands of people in prison. I think the state of Oregon, around 12,000 people in prison right now, right? So, but we're working on trying to get the things right and build back that trust that I think a lot of times our system is lost.
Where are you measuring your game in terms of making the police, their actions, more accountable?
Yeah. This is so crucial. I think, I talk to a lot of community members, and what I hear from them is not that, we need to, get rid of the police or less police. They want good police. They want police officers who they can trust to do their jobs, who are going to do them well, that will serve the community when the community needs them. So the key is I actually think police accountability in a lot of ways is pro-police, because we have good police officers and the community is assured that the police officers are good. That's good for everybody. And so for me as the district attorney, the standard is the same for police officers as it is for anybody in the community. If you break the law, then we're going to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
And the way that I have tried to demonstrate that is that everybody knows for our criminal justice system to work, the police and the prosecution, they work together. I can't prosecute cases where police officers don't make arrests and write reports.
Right.
So in a lot of ways, you can think of us as kind of the pitcher and the catcher, right? They pitch the ball, we're prosecutor, we catch it. We got to work as a team. But when police officers are the person who is suspected of the crime, that challenges the relationship. Now, I've prosecuted multiple law enforcement officers since I've been the district attorney, and sometimes those end up in convictions. We also had one that I'm very proud of. It ended up in a restorative justice resolution.
How so?
Well, so what we did, and this is a case that came out of the protests, a police officer used his baton on a defenseless young woman who was down on her backside on the street.
I remember that.
And hit her in the face.
Yes.
We charged that man with assault in the 4th degree. Now, this is in the context of the George Floyd protests and Black Lives Matter, and people, I think, that took to the streets to say our criminal justice system is failing us. So we talked to that young woman who was the victim in this case and said, what do you hope to achieve? What is your goal? What will help you as the victim heal? And what she really wanted was not necessarily the individual officer, his misdemeanor conviction. She wants system change.
Yeah.
That's why she was there in the first place. And even as the victim of this crime, she recognized that what happened to her was symptoms of the issues. And so I said, what if instead of we go through the prosecution, we do a restorative process? Because if we do the trial and it'll go to trial, it's just going to say protesters versus police. The police are going to feel one way about it. The protesters are going to feel the other way about it. It's going to open these wounds, and we're not going to ultimately get healing at the end of this. We're going to get a lot of people more dug into their positions. And so instead, we entered in this restorative process. The police officer was willing to do it. The victim was willing to do it. They had an outside group mediated this. For months, they worked with both sides until they could get together and have dialogue. And it resulted in the police officer tape recording a video apology to the victim. And that's what she said that she wanted to heal, to move forward.
Wow. He really is impressive, and he knows, he's got it. He's convinced me. It's been a wonderful thing being here with you. We've interviewed so many different people. I can't think of them all right now. I wish I could. I do have something exciting to share with you. Look, all right, it's here. From Maladies to Melodies. This is my memoir, and it talks about my life in St. Louis and following that Lewis and Clark Trail all the way here to Portland, Oregon, from St. Louis, Missouri. I tell you what, from the very beginning of the Civil War to where we are right now in the war on humanity. And there's a lot to say in this book. This is my first work in terms of being a voice for hope, resiliency, and we can do it, tism. I think that's a word. We can do it, tism. Well, I don't know, but it's a good book, and I had a lot of introspection and retrospection and all of those other things happening in my life while I wrote this, and it's a work of love and reason, and it talks about who I am. I'm not interested in letting someone else write my narrative. I'm interested in my narrative being written by me, so it's full of truth. And if you really want to know me and know the heart of what I am and who I want to aspire to be, justice drum major for change in our community, in our state, in our nation, I invite you to read From Maladies to Melodies. My musical journey is chronicled in here, and it's just good stuff. Listen, I've loved being with you this evening. Okay, that's it for tonight, and I'm glad to have been with you. It is so good to have been able to communicate with you all of these weeks, and boy, a year. It just doesn't seem a year, a whole year. And we made it. It's going to get bigger. It's going to get better. We've got great guests coming up. We've got Cornel West, and we've got William Barber, and we've got, just to name a couple, a lot of other folks that are coming on this year. But I want to see about you coming on the show. Your story is extremely important. And in our community especially, what you've been through and how you were able to make it through and what you want to see to mold and be a better partner in community, be a better next door neighbor, and be a better state to live in that we might be able to affect the world. It's really important. Come on and be a part right here. Listen, I want to thank our sponsors tonight. Post Shines, Cafe de la Soul, located right here in the heart of Kenton at 8131 North Denver. No, that's 8139 North Denver, right at the cross of Denver and Kilpatrick. You can't miss it. Come on down and get some of that barbecue and macaroni and cheese and sweet potatoes and pecan pie and apple cobbler and all that stuff that you just need to eat. We've got Aunties and Tanties Daycare, who really does a good job with our neighborhood children, and they've been in business for the last 20 or so years. They can do the job. We've got Adorn Electric, who likes to light up your life. And last but not least, we've got us. Come and be a part. It's good to be with you. Looking forward to more conversations. Talk to you later.
Hey, it's time for you to come to Post Shine. Check out that catfish sandwich. Oh my goodness, is that the shrimp po' boy? Man, look at that chocolate chip cake. Man, I need to get over to Post Shines at 8139 North Denver right now because this food looks delicious. Or call if you'd like, 503-978-9000. And don't miss it, you'll be sorry.
In times gone past, we find ourselves making excuses so that people reminded, ooh, I've got to get home and tend to the brand new missus. I need some time alone. Can't this wait until I finish texting on my phone?